Hello again everybody, back with another video. This one leading on from a video I made earlier, which was called What Difference Do Jabs Make? And this is What Difference Do Jabs Make Part 2. Now in the previous video I looked at the UK deaths in August 2020 and August 2021. I mentioned the September deaths, but we're only just over halfway through September, but I have all the data now, so we're going to look at what happened in August 2020 and what happened in August 2021 and what happened in September 2020 and what happened in September 2021. The difference being in 2020 there were no vaxes, and in 2021 there are lots of vaxes. So let's move on and have a look. So all my data has come from the UK government site, and here you can see testing, cases, vaccinations and deaths. And at present this is kind of today's value, and 85.4% first dose, 78.4% second dose. Now when I made the first video about August 2020-2021, I only had they were counting 16 plus, because now they are giving it to children from 12 to 16. They have made it from age 12 plus up, so they're counting how many jabs. So you can see 85.4% first dose, 78.4%, so about 80% double jabbed as they call it. But the previous one that I did, it was the I think 17th of September, and you can see it was around 90% because it was counting a smaller population, the 16 plus rather than the 12 plus. Let's go back to this one. So here I've picked up all the data. You can actually download it on the various under cases, under testing, you name it, or positive test is probably a better explanation than cases, and you can find all this data here. So YouTube, this is all official data, so I am not giving false information. So let's move on. So what I've done is I've collected all that data, as I said in the previous video, and it started at the 21st of April 2020, and I've collected daily cases, which should be daily positive tests, daily deaths, which are deaths of any reason, for any reason within 28 days of a positive test, so they don't have to be COVID deaths. Total tests per day, and this one is positive results per 1,000 tests, and that's worked out from this value, the testing value, and the daily cases or positive results. So you can calculate that from those. So this is a spreadsheet, and what I've done is I've collected the averages, and so I've got July, August, September 2020, and I've got July, August and September 2021, and I've also collected some data for March, April, May and June. But these are the main ones I'm focusing on, the August and the September from 2020 and 2021. So I have collected, as you can see, various fields, which I'll talk about next. So here we go. From that data, I've got average daily cases, which is positive tests, average daily tests, average daily deaths, average positives per 1,000 tests, and have average percent positive per test. So of all the tests we do, how many are positive? Total cases, total positive tests and total deaths. So just looking at that, if we look at the average daily death, in August 2020 it was 10, and August 2021 it was 93, even though lots of people were vaccinated. So there were 9.3 times more deaths in August 2021 with a lot of people vaccinated than there were in August 2020, when the coronavirus was raging through the population, basically running riot, and nobody was vaccinated. But we've got a lot more deaths when people are vaccinated. And here we've got in September 20 we've got an average of 21, and we've got a 138 for September 2021. And if you divide these two, you get 6.6. So even in September, there's 6.6 times more deaths this year with the vaccination programme than there was without it, and 9.3 times more in August. And we can look at the total deaths here. It comes out very similar, but it's not quite the same as looking at the average daily deaths. But for August 2021 against August 2020, there was 9.2 times more deaths, and the total deaths was 6.4. So roughly in line, but slightly different because we're looking at a daily average and we're looking at a total that was rising. But you can see far more deaths, many times more deaths in September 2021 than September 2020, and August there was even more. So you have to ask, what on earth is the vaccination doing? Because it's meant to be, well, the main people that are dying are meant to be old and sick, and that's, you can work that out from the data, and I've worked that out in other presentations. So if all the old and sick have been vaccinated, why, with the vaccination, are we getting more deaths than were without it? And this one is looking at the UK daily deaths. This is the 7th of October data with the first dose. So 85% of the population of the UK from 12 plus have had 85.4% and 78. So we've got 80% double dosed, but we've still got more deaths. So what I'm showing here is basically, this is the death plot from the 21st of April 2020 to the 8th of October 2021. So you can see the first wave, so-called second wave, and this one here, which is meant to be the third wave. And here's the vaccinations from the 1st of August, 1st of September and 30th of September 2021. And I've stuck to the 16 plus because that was the data I had before. So we've basically now got, in terms of 16 plus, 90% first dose and 82.5% second dose. This is a smaller population number, but basically 9 out of 10 people above the age of 16 have been fully jabbed. And at the start of September, it was still a very similar figure, 80% double jabbed. So we've got, 80%, we've got 8 out of 10 people who are protected, and they say it offers some degree of, it offers great protection from dying, and it also reduces transmission. Explain why we're getting more deaths now. So this is just, I'm showing the average daily deaths on this graph. So this was August. Down here, the very low one, this was September 2020, and this is basically August 2020 and September 2020 there. So you can see the data, but I don't need to go into too much detail. But it's just showing you we've got all these vaccinations, but we've actually got a lot more deaths than we had down this area there. And just to put it in a kind of bar chart, this is showing August 2020 total deaths, August 2021, September 2020 and September 2021. So here we've got 80% double jabbed of 16 plus. So every 8 out of 10 people have been protected, but we've got 6.4 times more deaths than we had here. And it was 9.3 times for August. So I've already covered that. You can watch the previous video, but this isn't looking good, is it really? So if we look at there's the figures for August 2021 over August 2020, and there's the figure for September 2021 divided by September 2020. 6.5 times more deaths, and 0 vaccinated, and 80% of 16 plus vaccinated, and probably all the old and the vulnerable. Yet we've still got more deaths. What is that telling you guys? I don't need to say, do I? And this is just looking at the average daily deaths. So the numbers are very much the same in terms of the ratio, but you can see, look at this. With all the vaccinations, we've got way more deaths than we had when we didn't have. And here, bear in mind, the only thing different was the face masks in shops. And most people, certainly where I live, probably 2/3 are wearing face masks still. And they're probably the ones that have been double jabbed. But just take a look at that data, guys. Now, let's look at infection rates. So here we've got the average positives per 1,000 tests. So for August, 6.2 versus 40. And for average percent positives per test, 0.62 versus 3.99. So basically this is just 10 times less than this, but the same ratio. And then in September we got 16.6 versus 34.3 and 1.71 versus 3.37. So not quite as high, but still more people infected when there's vaccination around than there was when we didn't have vaccination. So here is the UK positive tests per 1,000 virus tests, showing you basically the first wave, which was higher, the second wave. So these are infection rates, you could argue, even though it's probably a pile of bollocks anyway, but let's go with their figures. So we got first wave, second wave, and this third wave. And despite the fact that where I live now, matrix signs are going up everywhere. These are the signs by the side of the road that tell you what the COVID status is, and they say COVID is rising in the area. Get tested, get vaccinated, or keep testing, something like that. There's probably 3 times more. We had 1 in my town. There's 3 now around the town. So these are all going up, being paid by us. The council are paying for it. We're paying council tax. Basic propaganda, coercion, you name it, to get vaccinated. And look at this. Yeah. So it's actually not going up. If you look at the tests, God knows what happened here. There is a big peak here, and that was because they recorded much lower tests for one day, which didn't add up because the cases didn't change. And I'm just showing you the figures I've talked about in terms here of the August 2021, there were 40 per 1,000 tests, August 2020, 6.2, September 2020, 16.6, and September 2021, 34.3. And of course we put our 16 plus population numbers. We've got a hell of a lot more vaccinated than the 0 we had in 2020 down here somewhere. So looking at that, this is just showing you there is obviously less infection rate if you take the positive tests than the total tests, but it's still much higher in August and September 2021 than it was August and September 2020. Now they'll probably say, oh, it's the Delta variant, and it's much more infection. But we've got 8 out of 10, 16 pluses with the vax. And a lot of times they talk about it being 80 to 90% vaccinated for herd immunity. Aren't we close to that? Shouldn't the R rate, which is around 1 now, and it was very similar, maybe lower back last year, and that R rate is still up there at 1, even though there's this wonderful vaccine in place. So that's just giving you the ratio of infection for August was 6.44. So 6.44 more higher infection in August 2021 than 2020, and 2 times more in September 2021 compared to September 2020. So figures are there. They're all correct figures. it's all based on government data. But somehow you don't see Van Tam or Whitty or Boris or any of these puppets actually telling you this. And here's average positive tests per 1,000 tests. The same ratio as before, it's just a different way of calculating it. Same type of bar chart. Now let's look at the testing rates. The average daily tests in August 2020 and 2021, you can see them there. And the average testing rates in September 2020 versus 2021. So this is just showing you those. This is the graph. This is the ridiculous low one that they've recorded, which is clearly an error because you couldn't do that many tests without the cases or positive tests dropping, and they didn't. So here we've slowly been kind of ramping testing up. We had August 2021, September 2020, August 2021 and September 2021. So you can see the lines there. And when you look at that on a bar chart, you can see the increase in terms of the number of tests. So the average in September was over 1 million tests per day, basically. No wonder we have a lot of cases. And if we look at the ratio, it's 4.52 and for August, and it's 4.46 for September. So same kind of ramp up multiplier for both sets of months there. Now, even if we are finding more CV 1984 positive, old sick people by testing more, it doesn't account for the 9.3 times more deaths reported in August 2021 compared to August 2020 and the 6.4 times more for the 2 Septembers. We've got 4.46 here, we've got higher figures there. So it's not just more testing. So is it more designation of deaths according to COVID within 28 days of a positive test? Who knows? But I thought I would just pull that up to show that it's not just the increasing in tests that's causing that. And also, always remember the average age of people dying within 28 days of a positive test for any reason is around 80 years old. Old and sick people, according to the figures, die from COVID 1984. And most of those now are most of those now are vaccinated. So what does that tell you? So what are the UK vaccines doing? What are they doing? Are they helping? You tell me. I've just given you all the figures. But let's have a look at a couple of African countries where vaccination rates are low. At the moment, they're kind of saying, oh, the capitalist countries are all looking after themselves by vaccinating all the populations. And the poor African countries, they aren't getting vaccinated. Nobody's worried about those. Well, also the poor African countries don't emit much CO2 or use many resources per person. They're also very poorly paid, and they also do lots and lots of work for generating things for the more developed countries. But this is Statistica, and what I'm showing here is the vaccine doses administered worldwide as of October the 1st by country. So what this is showing is, for example, the very highest is Gibraltar, and that is 236 doses per 100 people. So everybody has received 2.4 doses effectively. And if we look at the United Kingdom, which we've just been talking about, we've administered 1.4 doses per person. But when you come down here to some of the African countries, look at Kenya is 6.93 and Zambia is 3.91. So virtually very, very few people. And here's the link to find that data. So basically these, if we look at these, massive, massive difference between the United Kingdom, Kenya and Zambia. So wouldn't you kind of expect, if we've been privileged in the UK to have all these vaccinations, we would expect to have a better showing against the deaths from COVID-19 against these countries that haven't been vaccinated. Let's have a look. So this is Worldometer, and here's the link to where this is. You can do searches by clicking on these. I've searched out deaths per million of population. So what's the death rate for the amount of people there? And we can see at the top is Peru. And then all the way down we've got 25th is the UK. And that's got 2013 deaths per million of population. We can then look at Zambia, and that has got 192, which you kind of, if they weren't vaccinated, wouldn't you expect a few more than that? This is a ratio to the population. And then we've got Kenya down here, look, and that's 94, way, way below. So there's the UK, there's Zambia, and there's Kenya. So let's take a look at these countries. So bear in mind, very few vaccinations here, massive vaccinations here, as we've seen. So let's have a look at that comparison. So here's the United Kingdom. In terms of the COVID-19 world death ranking, it's 25th. But Zambia is 138th and Kenya is 159th. And the vaccination rate, the doses per 100 people, 138 for the UK, 7 for Zambia, and 4 for Kenya. So 20 times less for Zambia, 35 times less than for Kenya. And the death rates are 2013, 192, and 94. So the death rates are 10.5 times less for Zambia, who's had 20 times less vaxes, and 21 times less than for Kenya, who have had 35 times less vaxes. How does that work? Shouldn't that be the other way around? You can look on that. Please, by all means, go on those two sites, Statistica and Worldometer, and take a look for yourself. You might also want to look at China, which is going to be my next video, because nobody's looking at China, where they've basically gone for 8 months now without a COVID death. And that's not reported on mainstream media. So, just in case people might say, I'll come back here, that, oh well, Kenya, it's people are all spaced out over a sprawling savannah or something like that. Well, Kenya does have quite a big city. The metro area population in Nairobi is around 5 million people. It has international transport, lots of people living on top of each other, lots of international travel, but compared to the UK, if we go back here again, they've had 21 times less deaths and 35 times less vaccinations. How does that work? You tell me. And my view is the COVID thing has been softening us up for more to come as we morph from COVID-19 to climate action for saving the so-called planet. Yeah, and we've had recently this creature here going blah blah blah. Well, I kind of knew what she was saying straight away. And of course, blah blah blah, it's 33 in Chaldean, 33 for Masonry, and it's 42 in full reduction English, or otherwise known as Pythagorean. And 42 is 6 times 6 plus 6, and 7 times 7 minus 7. Big number. And COP26, which is going to come up, and God knows what they're going to do to us with that one, is 42 again. That number, always there. And also, I haven't, obviously the hand signs are clear there. The sonic hand signs, blah, blah, blah for 33. We've got all this to come, guys. It's not going to go away. But that's all I've got to say for now. So thank you for watching. Thank you for listening, and goodbye.